In our coverage this evening, Iowa's governor wants to make changes to a system that has helped the state school districts with content and programs for decades. Governor Kim Reynolds first floated changes to the state's area education agencies in her Condition of the State address. That happened earlier this month. Now, last week, she released an update on the plan. KTV's Connor Trett joins us live in studio this evening with a little more on what the governor wants to change and how area school districts are now reacting to those plans. Connor.
Thanks, Jess. Iowa Governor Kim Reynolds has made a proposal to reform Iowa education that could see an overhaul of Iowa's AEA services. Now, AEAs provide specialized support for students with special needs with services like occupational therapy, physical therapy, and speech and language pathology, among others. AEAs also provide professional learning for teachers with specialized instructors. Under Governor Reynolds' proposal, school districts could pursue contracts with private companies to hire specialists to meet those educational needs instead of AEAs.
The changes that she's making are overly drastic. They take the local relationships that we have to our schools and they move that to Des Moines. We don't think that an employee in Des Moines is going to be as responsive to somebody in Charter Oak or Rock Valley as we are, because we're right here.
AEAs statewide oppose the changes, but what about the school districts that use the AEAs as a resource for students? I talked with superintendents with 2 Northwest Iowa districts to find out what they think about the governor's proposal.
2 Northwest Iowa school superintendents say area education agencies serve local school districts well.
Because I have a local AEA, I know I have good services available to our district out here in Remsen, Iowa. And I know people locally that will serve us. Why would we want to transfer those services to someone in Des Moines?
Obviously, most of the school districts are going to continue to go to the AEA to those services. I know Sergeant Bluff-Luton would.
Governor Kim Reynolds is pushing for an increased oversight and reform of the 9 AEAs in Iowa.
So how did the system work before this new proposal? Well, it all starts at the tax dollars. Those go into the AEA funds that AEAs could then pull from when they need to provide services to schools. This new plan, however, puts a block right here and keeps the money in the district and then gives the district the option to hire a third-party provider for those same services to give to their schools. Now, this may look like a good idea on paper, or in this case, on a whiteboard, but for many rural schools around Northwest Iowa, this just isn't seen as a viable option.
The larger school districts, for example, could they afford to take their money and perhaps do their own thing? Because of their scale and their capacity, they may have the opportunity to do that. Smaller schools, the money that we receive isn't enough to do that.
We don't have a lot of administrative overhead here to begin with, so for us to try to find more providers and to form more consortiums is just going to add to the workload. And I think it's going to complicate things for parents, which for right now are fairly simple with the AEA system.
For now, most schools will most likely be opting to continue using AEAs. More changes could be on the way with Governor Reynolds' proposal. Lawmakers expect an amended bill to come out this week.